Guys, I'm going to show you how to use Affinity to create a mold design that you might use typically to make a ring. So on here I've got a little design of using 3 layers of different shapes to make up one design of a ring. So I can show you how this is going to work. So this is going to stack up each one on top of the other. And what you then get is, I guess in design you'd call this a relief effect. It sort of gives an idea of 3D. So this would make the ring look quite three-dimensional because we've got some different form going on. So I'm going to show you how we start off by making this. So the first thing you need to do is decide who you're making the ring for. I'm making it for myself. I have rather large fingers, so I'm going to make a circle. I'm just going to click on one of the grid points, hold Command and Shift and drag out. Down here in the transform window, I'm going to press that button to link the dimensions together, and I'm just going to type in my finger diameter. So 25 millimeters. You may laugh if you feel so inclined. Now I like to get it centered on a grid point like that, so you get those green and red markers there. I'm going to zoom in. Now we can decide on how thick we want the ring to be. So I'm going to hover over the middle there. I'm going to hold Option. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to start clicking and dragging. I'm going to hold Command and then Shift. And then that brings it around the center. I'm going to make it, I don't know, like 1 grid square thicker. Like that. Excuse me. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is we need to turn this into like a donut, as they call it. Sometimes you'll find as well, it's kind of annoying in Affinity, the default is that it comes in with a fill color. Yeah, it'll come in with like a white or whatever, and it's kind of annoying. So you need to just change your lines to be obviously red for cutting and 1 point on the stroke and then no fill. Yeah, so at the moment, if I get a fill color now, you can see it just fills the whole thing in, which we don't want. So I'm going to select the first ring we drew. I'm going to bring that to the front. So I'm going to click on this one here and go move to front. Now this is the cookie cutter. So if I color this one in, let's make this blue. What we want to do is to use this to cut out the middle. So I'm going to hold Shift now, click on the larger of the rings, and then I'm going to click on subtract here. And there we go. That then gives us a fill. I'm just going to drag the opacity down to 0 there. So that's now 1 unit altogether. The next thing I can do is to start designing whatever shape I want to do. So I'm going to get the pen tool here, and I'm going to start just drawing in whatever shape. I was sort of roughly doing something that looked vaguely, but not kind of like the peak. So it's almost like making a miniature scene. It looks nothing like the peak, but never mind. And we go back to where we started there. I'm going to get the arrow. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is going to drag over the whole thing. I'm going to hold Option on my keyboard, drag to the right and hold Shift. Then that duplicates it. Now what I can do is just get the white arrow, and you can click on like each node, as we call it, and you can start editing the shape. And this is where you can start creating a relief. So you make all the nodes, you can move all the nodes around, so slightly down, and we'll start making a bit of a shape like that. And it's good to make them fairly different to the one behind it, because then you'll get a lot more, I guess, a lot more form in what you're making. Okay, cool. There we go. So that's the layer in front, and we'll do one more. Like that, and then this one we can make quite a lot smaller. Obviously, you can do the same for this with buildings, or you can even delete nodes as well. If you want to get rid of one, just click on one and go and hit delete. Yeah, so this works on buildings. If you, as in if you were wanting to do a 3D model of a building, this would be another way you could do it together, sort of 3-dimensional form. And you can even build mini scenes. Like you could even have like one of the layers could be like a little ferry or something like that. Who knows? Next thing is to join these together. So I'm going to click on the mountain, or so-called mountains, hold Shift, click on the ring, and go Add. You see it joins them together. And we'll do the same for each layer there. Looks nothing like the peak, but never mind. It looks like something. So those are my layers of supposed mountains there. Now I can still edit those if I want. Now you'll see what I've done over here is I'm doing 2 versions. This version here it's just going to be cut out of maybe acrylic or something like that, just so I can get an idea if it fits. Then the layers below, I'm doing as a mold, so I can try casting different materials into it. So I could try pewter or wax or even resin if I wanted to. So to do that, I'm going to select the rings, hold Option, drag down. I'm actually going to spin them over. There we go, like that. So they're the wrong way up. Okay, zoom in. Here we go. So when you're casting anything, you need 2 funnels. Excuse me. You need 1 funnel for the material to be able to be poured in. So let's make that this one here. And it's good to have a little sort of cone on the end of it so that it's easier to pour it in. So I'm just going to get the triangle tool, flip it around, and we will link that onto the rectangle I just drew. There we go, and hold Shift, and we can just turn that into its sort of cone shape together. So there's that one there, and then we also need an air release hole as well. Now that can be thinner. That's literally just to release the air from the mold as the metal's poured in. Yeah, and like that should be okay. So we've got that. I'm going to select both and hold Shift, and then we'll just move that along to each one like that. And then we can go join together on each one like that, or add. Oops. Okay, good. So what I can do next is I can get a rectangle tool, and I'm going to line it up with the top of those funnels and draw it out. Now it's good with the rectangle. For the actual mold itself, this is going to be MDF. Make sure you've got enough space all around so it's not too weak. A big chunky mold is always stronger. And I'm going to duplicate that, and you'll see why. So one of these, this is all cut out. Yeah, these are cut out from this layer of MDF. So again, so that we can visualize that, I'm going to get the rectangle, I'm going to send it to the back here, and I'm then going to get the 3 ring models selected. Then I'm going to select the rectangle and go subtract. And you can see there it cuts out where the metal is going to go. And then we can see basically like those are the gaps which will be filled in. Now this one is different. We're going to move this one to the back as well. Now you'll hopefully remember with laser cutting that black lines are for engraving. Oh, I've got to make sure there's no fill on there. And red lines are for cutting. So what I'm going to do is do this. I'm going to have another version here which is just engraved. Now that will help me to position these circles onto this mold cheek so that they don't get put in the wrong place and then it's all wonky and off. Then the last thing to do is to get another of the rectangles, and then we can do that like that there. And let's just select all those. There we are. And then I can export those for laser cutting. So hopefully you'll remember from before, the way we do that is through using the EPS function. And I think the video is on Classroom. So you can then laser cut that, and then we can have a look to see how that's going to work. All right, that's how